evening, friends. Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life, the largest ministry in the Catholic Church dedicated to ending abortion. Thanks for spending part of your Monday night with me. It is the 8th of March of 2021. So it's unbelievable how misguided a politician can be. But when he or she is in favor of killing babies, that is, by abortion, well, you don't get much worse than that. And we're going to talk about a couple of these people tonight and how others have been deceived by them. I'm going to share with you a couple of thoughts. But first, let's go to my book, Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day, and look at what the prayer is for today. We look at Scripture, Isaiah 49. We read, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you." Reflection, in assuring his people of his unfailing love for them, God seeks an extreme example to make his point. He speaks of the bond between a mother and the child of her womb. He declares that the breaking of that bond is practically unthinkable to him. Let us pray. Lord, you have established the bond between mother and child and used it as an example of the most faithful commitment. Strengthen all mothers and protect all their children. Amen. So do you have your copy? Pro-Life Reflections for Everyday.com is where you can get one. I'll sign it, personalize it in whatever way you like, and great gift for others as well, especially those that you know are already active in the pro-life movement and want to nourish their daily spirituality accordingly. So, where do we begin here? Well, I've got some advice for Congressman Tim Ryan of Ohio. There are nice big doors on the U.S. Capitol, exit doors. Why don't you go through them and take all your Democrat colleagues with you? Leave public office is my not just advice, it's my urging, it's my exhortation, it's my plea, it's my prayer. We don't need the Democrat Party in power in anything, because you guys have lost the ability to tell that killing a baby is wrong. Out. We don't want or need public servants who can't tell the difference between serving the public and killing the public. Out! So what makes me mention this particular congressman? Well, somebody sent me a letter that dated just less than a week ago that he sent back to them. This is one of those, letters that are absolutely astonishing in their stupidity. Okay, let me say that again. Absolutely astonishing in their stupidity. That he sends back to somebody that wrote to him in regard to abortion. I actually want to take a look at this in some depth here and show you how ridiculous this kind of reasoning is. If you can't even call it reasoning. But how somebody can say this kind of stuff. Let me read it to you. Okay. Thank you for contacting me to share your concerns regarding women's reproductive rights. Now let's stop right there. We're not writing to you about women's reproductive rights. We're writing to you about baby killing. All right, so right there from the very first sentence, you have not heard what your constituent is saying to you. We write to these men and women in public office about abortion, we write to them about the literal tearing apart of a baby limb from limb, the chopping off of her head, the pulling off of her arms and legs, the crushing of her skull, the making mincemeat of the body. And they have the audacity and the stupidity to write back, "Thank you for writing to me about women's reproductive rights." You know, right off the bat, it shows how disconnected from reality they are. Excuse me, but I'm writing to you about baby killing. And you're going to say, I wrote to you. You don't even know what I wrote to you about. These people can't make any judgments. Thank you for contacting me to share your concerns regarding, concerns regarding what did you say, sir, ma'am? Concerns regarding what? You didn't even hear me when I told you I'm concerned about the killing of babies? And it gets worse from there, but let's go through it, because I want you to be able to see through the nonsense of this, help others see through it, and respond to these people. I appreciate hearing from you about this emotional and complex issue. Well, again, stop right there. It's emotional, yes, but complex? Listen, we know so well the circumstances that lead a person to feel that they have to abort their baby. And if you're going to say that those circumstances are complex, well, there are a lot of very distressing problems and situations that people are in. There are a lot of different complex factors at work in their lives. And but if you're going to talk about complexity, let's see complexity every place that it is. Somebody abuses their born child. Somebody burns, slaps, or throws from a window their baby. Or remember Susan Smith drowning her children in the car, driving the car into the lake? Are there complex things going on in her mind, in her head, in her emotions, in her relationships, in her life? Are there complex factors involved in anybody who's abusing their child? Are there complex factors, for that matter, involved in the mind of an arsonist, a drug dealer, a rapist, a shooter? Somebody goes into a school and starts shooting kids in the school. Can you imagine somebody coming along and saying, well, you know, there are many emotional and complex issues going on here? Hold on a second. Emotional, yes. But what's complex about saying it's never okay to shoot a student in a school? It's never okay to throw a baby from a window. What is so complex about saying it's never okay to chop a baby's head off? Is there really a complexity here in understanding what's right and what's wrong? A complexity from the point of view of the many different conflicts inside of a person that are leading them to do evil, yes. But there's no complexity in discerning that it's evil. So right off the bat, this is bad stuff. Let me read these two sentences again because it's crap. Thank you for contacting me to share your concerns regarding women's reproductive rights. No, sir, it's about baby killing. I appreciate hearing from you about this emotional and complex issue. No, it's simple. You don't kill babies. Now again, I know the situations that mothers are in that lead them to abort their children, that fathers are in that lead them sometimes to push for abortion. John is saying the unborn have no legal rights. Yeah, you mean like slaves used to not have them? John, that's precisely the problem that we're talking about. But who are the unborn? We work every day with people who are both tempted to have abortions and who have been tempted in the past and fell into that terrible mistake. So we understand full well. And none of this takes away the utter simplicity, not complexity, simplicity of what we can say and we can declare is without exception the truth that you don't kill babies. You can't kill babies and justify it. All right, but let's go deeper into this letter. Third sentence, there are many factors involved when the woman decides to end a pregnancy. And over the past 14 years in political office, I have gained a deeper understanding of the complexities and emotions that accompany the difficult decisions that women and families make when confronted with these situations. Okay, Congressman, so is the killing of a baby by abortion the only issue that is confronted with complexities and about which you've gained a deeper understanding by your years on this earth? You talk to people who work in the, let's say in the prison system or in social work. I'm sure as they advance in social work, or you talk to psychologists and psychiatrists all across the country, I'm sure they've come to a deeper understanding in the course of their professional lives of the complexities behind the arsonist and the robber and the murderer and the thief and the child abuser. Have they not? Have they not? Come on, are we going to just apply this gobbledygook language to abortion? Look, you could understand better the complexities going on in the lives of anybody who does evil. Your problem is not that you didn't understand the complexities that go into somebody that does evil. Your problem is that you've forgotten that it's evil. We go on. I was elected to political office at a young age. Now, here we go. Now, listen to this. Here we go. And being raised in a Catholic household, here we go, always considered myself pro-life. My faith is important to me, and like many Catholics, I strive to adhere to its principles, especially one of the essential and highest teachings of judge not lest ye be judged. Oh yeah, I was raised in a Catholic household too. That's why it was so easy for me to tell you on 9/11 that flying an airplane into the World Trade Towers was wrong, because I was raised Catholic, and so it was very clear to me that doing that was wrong. And judge not lest ye be judged. So, Congressman, do you judge the guys that were flying those airplanes? Judge not. You judge Susan Smith drowning her kids in the lake? Come on, which of these people are you going to judge? Just go ahead. Just look at all the killings that take place in our major cities. Judge not, lest you be. Again, totally missing the point. Oh, I don't judge them. Who's asking you to judge them? But you really going to forget that these actions are evil? You're really going to say that you can't denounce these actions? Oh, man, maybe so child abuse shouldn't be against the law anymore because there are complexities going on in the mind of the child abuser, and after all, who am I to judge? This is ridiculous. Like Dan is saying, grade school taught us the Ten Commandments. Yeah, and some members of Congress, they've matured, and so they've thrown the Ten Commandments out the window. I've learned firsthand from women of all ages, races, and socioeconomic backgrounds about the circumstances and hardships that accompany this personal choice, which we should not judge. And about what act of violence can you not say the same thing? Or maybe you've never talked to the rapist. You've heard firsthand from women. Have you heard firsthand from murderers? Have you heard firsthand from arsonists? Have you heard firsthand from The latest guy that robbed the bank? Come on. Now, here we go. Second paragraph. I have sat with women from Ohio and across the nation and heard them talk about their varying experiences. Okay, hold on a second. Have you heard the women of Silent No More? Go to silentnomore.com. Go to abortiontestimonies.com. You want to hear from women? Listen to the voices of those who have had abortions. You want to hear about pain and sorrow? Are you listening to those voices of the ones who march all across the country holding signs saying, I regret my abortion? Have you heard about them? Have you heard about the ones that have been entangled in substance abuse and suicide attempts because of their abortion, who've ended up in divorce, broken marriages, self-destructive behaviors, psychological wounds of all kinds because of their abortion? And you're going to start talking about listening to the experiences of women. Don't just listen to those who are trying to justify that they killed their baby. Listen to those who tried to justify it and then suffered as a result of it. So, let's go on. I have heard them. Abusive relationships, financial hardship, health scares, rape and incest. Oh, wait. I thought you said don't judge. Now all of a sudden you're calling these bad things? There are endless stories about women in troubling situations. The woman who became pregnant and has a violent spouse. See, what's the matter, Congressman? What kind of sickness is in your head that you're able to call a spouse violent and you're not able to call abortion violent? Where's the sickness coming from? Where's the sickness? The woman who came pregnant has a violent spouse. How can you judge that the spouse is violent? I thought you said you had compassion for the difficulties and complexities of these emotional situations and that you cannot judge people who do these things, and yet you're calling the spouse violent. You have no problem identifying violence when it's spouse against spouse, but not when it's mother against child? What's the matter with you? The woman who lost her job and is unable to afford another child. Well, why should she kill the one in her womb if it's not okay to kill the one who's already born? See, this is where these arguments fall down, is these people try to say, oh, well, she has too many children already. She can't care for another child, so she gets pregnant. Oh, well, it's okay to kill the baby that she's carrying in her womb, but not the baby who's lying in his or her crib. But it would be the same reason. What if she adopted the same rationale and said, listen, you can't understand the complexities in my life. Don't judge me. I can't handle another child. So I'm going to take the baby in the crib and I'm going to chop his head off. You can't justify that, can you? Are there any complexities? And come on, tell us, Congressman, because you're writing this letter. Are there any circumstances that you can name? Because, after all, you have all this vast experience. You've talked to women all over this country. Oh, yeah. So of all these women, you just have you have such a big heart. You have such an open mind. You're so compassionate. You're so connected. You're listening to these people. So have you heard of situations that would justify her going to the baby in the crib and chopping his head off? Well, which tell me about the complexities that would justify that. And if you can't find any complexities that would justify her chopping the head off the baby of the crib, because, after all, I can't afford any more children, then why on earth are you trying to justify killing the baby in the womb? Somebody is asking, Antonio, thank you for joining us, who is this congressman? Tim, I just so happened to come across the letter by Tim Ryan of the 13th District of Ohio. But listen, to be fair, this is every Democrat congressman, okay? Every Democrat in Congress right now. Sometimes Henry Cuellar from Texas will do a pro-life vote, but every single one of the Democrats takes these crazy positions. They'll express it in different ways, but The problem is, it's the problem with the whole Democrat Party, to tell you the truth. This guy's just representing not only himself, but all these others of the party of death. So he's talking about these stories. And again, listen, we work with these women all the time. We understand. Yeah, Honest Annie, thank you very much. Not to mention Biden and Harris, too. And the senators, too. I mean, Senator Joe Manchin, okay, sometimes he'll cast a pro-life vote. Sometimes you've got, Senator Casey, less than in the past, but otherwise, I mean, you're dealing with an entire party, the Democrats, that buy into this ridiculous line of argument. She lost her job, unable to afford another child. Or the underage girl who risks being thrown out of her house if she reveals her pregnancy. These are just a few of the many stories I have heard. Oh yeah, we've heard them too. We know the situation. We've heard the stories of those that have had abortions also. Each of these women lived through difficult and personal situations. Yeah, we know. With few options and no clear path to take. This is why there is no easy answer. So there's no easy answer to whether it's okay to kill a baby? To kill a baby is the question. Not a clear answer as to how to get out of the difficult circumstances that they're in. These are two different things. These women gave me a better understanding of how complex and difficult certain situations can become. How many times are you going to use the word complex in this letter? It's simple, Congressman. You don't kill babies. And while there are people of good conscience on both sides of this argument, one thing has become abundantly clear to me. The heavy hand of government must not make this decision for women and families. No, they must not make the decision that child abuse is wrong. They must not make a decision for the complexities of the person who is, unstable enough to take a gun and start shooting kids up in the school. Oh no, the heavy hand of government needs to stay away from all these complexities. Law intervenes in complexities every day. Because there are certain boundaries that no matter how complex your situation is in life, you don't cross. Or maybe you've forgotten that. The heavy hand of government. Maybe the government has a heavy hand because we have rights that have to be protected by a heavy hand. Because everything depends on those rights being protected, like, life. Friends, honestly, I don't know where these people come from. I don't know how they're allowed to serve for 1 minute in public office. I don't understand it. He goes on to say, as my friend and colleague, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro says, there's a winner. DeLauro, out the door. Out the door. There's a big exit door there in the Congress. Go through it and don't come back. She says nobody celebrates abortion. Well, hey, isn't that a joke? They certainly do. You didn't see the signing ceremony of the now increasingly disgraced governor of New York back at the beginning of 2019, together with Sarah Weddington, who argued Roe v. Wade? You didn't see the celebration when they signed that late-term abortion law? What do you mean nobody celebrates abortion? What are you talking about? You never saw the Shout Your Abortion campaign from the pro-abortion side to try to counteract our Silent No More campaign? Yeah, you can be sure those women don't celebrate abortion. But yes, the other side does celebrate abortion. Yes, they do. What's the matter? You're too blind to see it? They didn't invite you to the party? What's the matter? Democrats high-fiving themselves on the floor of the Congress when they pass pro-abortion bills. You never saw your Democrat friend? You've done it yourselves. For goodness sake. No woman makes this decision lightly. Each and every American deserves the right to deal with these difficult situations. How many times are you going to use the word difficult, complex, emotional? I notice you're not describing what an abortion is. See, this is another thing that these people consistently, when I say these people, these abortion-defending Democrats in Congress, what they constantly fail to do is to describe what they are defending. Why don't you've got a letter here that's a full solid page, depending on the font size, it goes into 2 pages. And you can't take one sentence to describe abortion. Do you know how the medical books describe abortion? Check out abortionist Warren Hearn, writing the book called Abortion Practice. He calls it dismember and decapitate. Why don't you just take a minute to describe what you're defending instead of keep on talking about all the complex situations? Just because they're cowards, these people. They don't want to describe what they defend, much less show a picture of it. Oh. Every American deserves the right to deal with these difficult situations in consultation with their families, close friends, or religious advisors. Yeah, the false prophets who claim that abortion is biblical. Yeah, look up the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. Is that the religious advisors that you're talking about? The false prophets? Listen, just because you dress like I do doesn't mean you aren't going to hell. There are false prophets out there, and they actually try to say that the Bible justifies abortion. No federal or state law banning abortion can honestly and fairly take into account the various circumstances that make each decision unique. Oh yeah, we got a lot of unique reasons why it's okay to chop babies' heads off. This is the kind of sickness that you have fallen into, you who justify this. Oh yeah, each decision is unique. Is each decision to stab somebody unique also? Or are there certain things that are universally wrong? No more moral absolutes. That's a part of your Catholicism, Ryan, that you threw out the door, right? Along with the brains of the baby. Just throw it out the door. Where government does have the ability to play a significant role is in giving women and families the tools they need to prevent unintended pregnancies by explaining education and access to contraception. We must get past the ignorance, fear, and yes, discrimination against women that lead to restrictions on contraception and age-appropriate sex education. You know what they're talking about, discrimination against women, when groups like ours say we're not going to include contraception in our health insurance plans for our employees. They call that discrimination. Only then can we hope to continue to make significant advances in what should be our true shared objective, reducing the number of unintended pregnancies, which make up the vast majority of abortions. Isn't that a simple approach on which we could all agree? This is not a partisan issue, but instead a personal one. Well, you know what else shouldn't be a partisan issue? That it's wrong to kill a baby. This is like saying, let's take away the laws that prevent any kind of violent attacks in our society. And instead of the heavy hand of government going into these complex situations, let's pour more money into counseling. It's obvious that a kid who goes in and shoots his fellow students in school is a very troubled kid. So instead of putting the law into this situation, because after all, every case is unique. Instead of making the heavy hand of government the solution, let's just spend more time putting into place programs that will reduce the likelihood that somebody will go in and do these things. Now, I'm all in favor of programs that would increase mental health. We have to increase the effectiveness of the mental health programs in our country. But if you think for 1 minute that means that the law should not fully protect the other students in the school from those who would shoot them, you're nuts. Let's not outlaw terrorism. Let's just create the conditions that make it less likely. You need to do both. During my time in Congress, I have authored and supported, by the way, those of you that are just joining us, I'm reading the response from a pro-abortion member of Congress, Democrat member of Congress. This boils down to the same thing. This represents all the Democrats. But this is from Tim Ryan from the 13th District of Ohio. It's not particular to him. This is the Democrat Party speaking, okay? During my time in Congress, I have authored and supported many proposals to help women prevent unplanned pregnancies. Well, I'm sure you've authored many proposals that would help people be less inclined to steal also. I mean, after all, the more prosperous our economy is, the more people have the ability to have the things they need, the less likely they're going to be to steal, right? And I'm sure you've supported all kinds of measures like that. Keep it up. Support prevention education. I'm sure you've helped to prevent child abuse too, right? Teach teens about values and healthy relationships and ensure access to contraception by increasing funding for family planning programs. Are you completely oblivious to the fact that more contraception leads to more abortion? Have you not studied the history of this? In every culture and subculture throughout the world, throughout history, more contraception has meant more abortion. Have you never studied the Supreme Court's Planned Parenthood versus Casey decision, in which it made it clear that we had to keep abortion legal in the deluded thinking of the court, in case contraception fails? Well, you don't see the connection between contraception and abortion? It's part of the same mentality. It's a no to children. It just escapes them somehow. We can all come together, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, to create a comprehensive and common sense legislative agenda that ensures new mothers have access to affordable health care, housing, and healthy food. We have no problem with that, but you're using that to mask the fact that you don't want the law to say you can't kill babies. See, this is why you don't belong in public office, because you forget the very purpose of the law. It's the first object, the first and only legitimate object of good government, like Thomas Jefferson said. It's the protection of human life, not its destruction. You're calling for the law to back away from these babies, to not protect them anymore from being dismembered. What is wrong with you? It is my hope that through these efforts, abortions will rarely be necessary. Why not? Why do you want abortion to be rare? If it's a constitutional right, why would you want it to be rare? What is it about abortion that's not desirable? See, they hint at, fewer abortions are better, but they never explain why. Because it's the killing of a baby, that's why. Nothing can justify that. On June 12th, now he goes into the personal aspect here. On June 12th, 2014, my wife and I were blessed when our son, Brady Zetz Ryan, came into the world. Stop right there. That's not when your son came into the world. Don't you even know when your son's life began? The heck is the matter with you? Your son did not come into the world on June 12, 2014, if he hadn't been in the world already for the previous 9 months growing in your wife's womb. You never heard the heartbeat of your unborn child? You never saw an ultrasound? Oh yeah, the baby came into the world the day the baby was born. Before that, oh no, he was out in the universe somewhere. The day baby came into the world, how? On the sky, on the clouds? How did he come into the world? How was your baby born? You're the father. How do you not know this? How was your baby born if he didn't already exist? You see the mental, let me tell you something. You may be surprised that I say this, but I've talked with we work with psychiatrists all the time. Leslie is saying it's the stork, but it was the stork. Cheryl too. Yeah, that's right. Especially there in Ohio, right, Ryan? That you got a lot of storks in Ohio. Just one day, he just landed on the front lawn. You know, I deal with a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists in the work of the pro-life movement, and you know what they say? This mindset that just erases the reality of the unborn child, as if the baby comes into the world just when they're born, it's a form of mental illness. It's a form of psychosis. Someone is saying the Easter Bunny, crafting with the heart. Yes, it's the Easter Bunny. Right? It hardly deserves a response. It's so ridiculous. But these are highly placed individuals in society that have the trust of many people. And this is psychotic. It's a break with reality. So, the baby came into the world. With the birth of this healthy baby boy, our lives were forever changed. I'm mindful that my wife and I were fortunate enough to bring Brady into a prepared family full of love and devotion. Oh, here we go. If the family is full of love and devotion, the child has a right to live. If the family isn't, well, you can dismember, chop the kids' heads off. I don't care. While I wish that for every child and look how condescending this is. While I wish that for every child and every family, I know it is not always the case. So for us who are fortunate to have love and devotion in our family and we have enough of this world's goods, we can stand on the moral superior ground of not killing our children. But for those of you down there in the dark valley, we'll hand you the instruments we'll hand you the poison to put in your baby's heart. We'll hand you the forceps to tear your baby's body apart. And, you should thank us for doing that. I wish that for every child, but I know it's not always the case. Some couples feel unprepared to become parents at that time. Okay, so what happens if the baby is born? You're going to throw the baby in the lake? Because they're unprepared to be parents? They're still unprepared to be parents. Can you kill the newborn? All the arguments that you people use to justify killing the unborn, can you use them to kill the newborn? They're unprepared to be parents. It doesn't give them the right to kill. And some families who are looking forward to a child may experience complications during the pregnancy. Yes, and there is no complication of pregnancy that requires morally or medically the killing of the child. Not a single one. All these circumstances and many more require tough decisions. Yeah, well, tough to implement, but not tough to understand. You don't kill babies. Not ever. There are too many scenarios, he goes on to say, too many variables and too much, here's it is again, complexity for pregnancy to be anything but a personal decision. So personal decisions aren't guided anymore by moral absolutes. It doesn't matter how personal a decision is. Absolutes exist. There are certain things you never do. And by the way, personal as opposed to what? Public? As in publicly advertised abortion facilities and, I don't know, public funding that you and your party support? Today I am a father and husband. Oh, then you should know better. Whose feelings on this issue have changed. God forgive you. I have come a long way since being a single 26-year-old state senator, and I'm not afraid to say that my position has evolved. No, it hasn't evolved. It has devolved. As my experiences have broadened, well, apparently not broad enough. What's it like to be an unborn child and to be dismembered? Is your experience broad enough to consider that? What's it like to realize that you killed your own child and to suffer the devastating grief that leads women to commit suicide, get involved in substance abuse, lose their self-esteem, destroy their relationships, destroy their career, end up in institutions? The grief and the pain and the devastation that follow abortion, is your experience broad enough to embrace that? They've deepened, they've become more personal. And while I have a deep respect for people on both sides of this conversation, well, I presume you have a deep respect for terrorists too, right? I mean, is there anybody that you don't have a deep respect for? You have a deep respect for white nationalists? You have a deep respect for, racists? Oh, there's a group. Oh, how much respect do you have for racists? People on both sides of the conversation, right? What happens when the conversation is racism? Or terrorism? I would be abandoning my own conscience and judgment. No, sorry, you've lost both. If I held a position that I no longer believed appropriate. I have come to believe that we must trust women. Oh, here we go. Trust women and families, not politicians, to make the best decision for their lives. So again, when do you stop trusting women? I don't want any laws in my state, requiring people to stop at red lights because I trust women not to hit into the cars that are coming in the opposite direction. Oh, no more laws against stealing in this town because we trust women. It has nothing to do with trust. It has to do with protecting people's rights. And so, no, but they don't know that. As Congress continues to debate this issue, oh no, you're not debating it. Because nowhere in this letter did you say what an abortion is. How can you debate something when you're not even facing what it is? You started off the letter all on the wrong foot. Thank you for contacting me about women's reproductive rights. These pro-life constituents are not contacting you about women's reproductive rights, and you in Congress are not debating what they are contacting you about, which is baby killing. Because you Democrats, you don't want to know what abortion is. You don't want to admit what abortion is. You don't want to see the pictures of it. You don't want to hear the descriptions of it. And you don't want to describe what you defend. As Congress continues to debate this issue, no, they pretend to debate it. And sometimes you don't even go that far. Rest assured, I will keep your views in mind. Thank you again for your correspondence. Sincerely, well, listen, it's nothing against just Tim Ryan. You could put any Democrat's name in there. Member of Congress. You shouldn't be. Find the exit. Tomorrow would be an excellent day. Do it at the beginning of the day, not at the end. And get yourself out of public office. Every one of you that are pro-abortion, you are a disgrace to public service. Let me say that again. Every one of you in public office, I don't care if you're in Congress, in the White House, in the Senate, in the governor's mansion, in the state legislature, I don't care where you are. If you are pro-abortion, if you call yourself pro-choice, if you aren't ready to protect these babies with every ounce of your strength, you don't belong in public office. Out! How can you claim to be a public servant when you don't know the difference between serving the public and killing the public? What a disgrace to the fundamental principles of civilization that you don't kill babies. What a disgrace to the meaning of public service when you think you can define out of existence an entire segment of the public. What a disgrace to the principle of equality when you can so vehemently assert that some people are nowhere near equal because you're not even acknowledging that there are people here. Where in this letter do you talk about the unborn child? Did I miss it? Where's the child? Nowhere. Except that you have to defend the right to kill the child that doesn't exist. But you are so busy defending the right to kill, but you don't. No mention of the victim. Friends, this is just so absolutely mind-boggling. How we can have people that, you see how they try to justify it? So I hope this has helped you to, thank you, Gene, for your comment. Thank you, Father, for wisdom, insight, and common sense. It really, that's how we have to battle this stuff. Common sense. Baby doesn't come into the world when the baby's born. The baby was already in the world. Gene is saying they hide behind these views so they can stay in office. They are suffering from a mental disorder. They are. You're absolutely right. Susan is saying they care about their pockets, not human life. That's right. You know why? Because they get money from Planned Parenthood. They get money from the abortion. Planned Parenthood, people think of it as a healthcare organization. It's a political machine. They put tens of millions of dollars every election into Democrat candidates. That's why even when Congress was holding hearings about Planned Parenthood and their illegal activity in selling the body parts of these babies. See, for them, the baby's not real until you got the parts in your hand to sell. Oh, then the baby's very real. And then the baby's human, because you're selling the human body parts. But until then, no. But that's why when these members of Congress, even when they're involved in hearings investigating Planned Parenthood, they can't say a bad word about it because that's their money flow. Their money flow. So a lot of good comments here. They have to come to the Lord. I pray for our youth. Deb is saying they have to come to the Lord and stop this abuse. And it is an abuse. They call us science deniers, Kim is saying, when they pick and choose. Life begins at conception, scientific fact. It absolutely is. We learned it in grade school. We know whenever human life begins. We know it exactly and precisely. Otherwise, how can you have test tube babies if we don't know exactly how a human life begins? So great comments. Sam saying no voice for the child. You certainly don't hear the voice of the child in letters like this. So thanks, friends, for listening to me. Thanks for, I hope that these things are encouraging to you. And fight on clearly, voice your position, never back down in any way, shape, or form. And let these politicians know that we're on to their ridiculous assertions when it comes to this issue. Well, we're going to leave it there for tonight. We will talk to you again tomorrow. And meanwhile, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look upon you with kindness and grant you his peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Now, tomorrow night's program, by the way, we are going to take a time of prayer for the nation and for the president. I know many of you watched the prayer sessions that we had, that I led with Right Side Broadcasting. And we did this in the leading up to the election and in the time after the election. We're going to do it again tomorrow night here on these networks right here at 9 p.m. And we're going to pray. We're going to get into the scriptures. We're going to pray for the President Trump I'm talking about. We're going to pray for the nation. And we'll pray for all elected officials as well. But in particular, we see President Trump as the leader of a great movement that has only just begun, as he's often told us, as he told us just a week ago yesterday over here in Orlando. It's a movement. Make America Great Again. In fact, I'll bring I got my hat in the other room. I'll bring my MAGA hat. Bring your MAGA hat too to the as we come together tomorrow night for. Not only for prayer for the nation, but thanksgiving to God. As Monica is saying, we love President Trump. And you know what? He knows that. I spoke with his chief of staff over the weekend, the Honorable Mark Meadows. We were together for an event, and I spoke to him and I said, Mr. Meadows, during his election, we were behind President Trump 1,000%. And now we're behind him 2,000% and 10,000%. I know that you share that with me, and we're going to move forward in a movement that he began and that nobody's going to take away. Okay, someone's saying, I'll wear my MAGA hat, Florida Anchor. Yes, let's get our MAGA hats out and let's do what needs to be done. Let's raise our voices always in love and with conviction, and we will win the victories. God bless you, friends. Father Frank Pavone here, Director of Priests for Life. Thanks for spending time with me tonight. I'm deeply honored by that. I always respect you and your time and your decision to spend some of that time with me. Thank you for that honor. God bless each one of you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Powerful new voices are arising in the debate over abortion, the voices of those who have actually experienced it. From coast to coast, women and men who have lost children to abortion are speaking out about its pain and devastation, and about the healing and forgiveness they have found through the pro-life movement. Their witness is changing hearts and minds. Former U.S. Senator Zell Miller writes, "The most poignant sight for me at this year's annual pro-life march and demonstration in Washington, D.C. was the large number of women holding signs saying they regretted their abortions." Celebrity Kourtney Kardashian says, "I looked online and I was sitting on the bed hysterically crying, reading these stories of people who felt so guilty from having an abortion. I was reading these things of how many people are traumatized by it afterwards."
I think we have Richard Lee, we have Jim Garlow, and we have Father Frank Pavone. Someplace they were in the audience, so I appreciate you. I appreciate
Follow him, Father Frank Pavone, Fr. Frank Pavone, on Twitter. He is the National Director of Priests for Life. Please go to priestsforlife.org.